1995, the wrestling promotion at the time known as the WWF, or the World Wrestling Federation, started to run a series of monthly pay-per-views known as the In Your House series. In Your House was devised as a response to their competitors' World Championship Wrestling upping how many pay-per-views they did on an annual basis. The In Your House formula was to make a shorter 2.5 hour long pay-per-view as opposed to WWE's at the time regular 4 hour long epics, and charge a lower price for the public so that it could be far more regularly in your house. Complete with special edition staging, which featured the white picket fence of old-timey America, wrestlers would come out of a front door and lead their way down to the ring for a series of different matches. That's kind of how wrestling works. The events ran from 1995 until 1999, where they eventually made way for a slew of full-time wrestling pay-per-views without the In Your House branding. Many of the names that had been used for In Your House as subtitles were now used as the main title for the show. I'm Sam from R-CADE Glasgow. I'm the host of R-CADE Glasgow's Wrestling Club, and today I'm going through the top 5 In Your House pay-per-view events. Number 5, In Your House, Mind Games. I think some would argue that this first entry survives based on its main event alone. Shawn Michaels, defending his WWF Championship against Mankind, received 4 3/4 stars from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Ending the match in dramatic fashion when Mankind could not control his aggression, getting himself disqualified instead of winning the title. Fans went home happy seeing Shawn Michaels retain his belt, while also getting a glimpse at what was to come from the maniac known as Mankind. In Your House Mind Games also put Mankind's character over hugely here, with all the iconography for the event featuring his signature leather mask over a cracked skull. If you want to show the fans that this is someone to pay attention to, literally make him the logo for an event. Huge way to know that someone's important. The rest of the show, as mentioned, is far less significant, with my personal take being that the second match of importance is the Smoking Guns taking on Owen Hart and British Bulldog. If you don't know, the Smoking Guns were cowboys and Owen Hart and the British Bulldog were wrestlers. So, the match also featured 2 of the greatest managers of all time, Sonny and Clarence Mason. If you don't watch enough wrestling, that is a joke. The semi-main event of The Undertaker vs Goldust was underwhelming for fans, while I would personally describe most of the other matches as segments rather than matches. A 1-minute squash by 62-year-old Jose Lothario boxing the brains out of Jim Cornette, as well as the debut of Mark Henry in a matchup against Jerry the King Lawler. Mark Henry, who was being presented as an Olympic hero, although I would more describe his outfit as a red, white and blue slushie, gets on a Wurlitzer, thrown off into an Adidas store, and then throws up. And that's how we get Henry's singlet. I worked hard on that one. Just be proud I didn't read it off the prompter. Number 4, In Your House 13, Final 4. So I'm going to like this pay-per-view for reasons different from everyone else that watched it. The main event Fatal 4-Way Elimination match was created so that it could set up the 4 participants for their WrestleMania 13 matchups. The match was a number 1 contenders contest, with the winner getting a shot at the WWF title soon after on Raw. It was a bloody contest which made the most of the 4-person stipulation, unlike more modern day examples of multi-man matches, with brawling happening inside the ring, outside the ring, and each pairing kind of making sense where the characters were at that point in time. You had Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin baying for each other's blood, which would again lead into the WrestleMania 13 match that so many fondly remember, and you have Vader and Undertaker trading big slugging blows around the outside of the ring. I, however, preferred the 10-minute DQ finish tag team title match, which pitted champions Owen Hart and the British Bulldog against a tag team known in the Federation at the time as the Can-Am Express. In rewatching 90s pay-per-views, Philip Lafon and Dan Furness were a breath of fresh air whenever Vince decided to use them on shows. Filled with athletic power from Bulldog and crisp movements from the other 3 men in the match, I think that the 10 minutes we got were very enjoyable, just a shame that Can-Am Express weren't going to get any sort of push in the land of the Giants. The rest of the card featured a series of matches that all performed lesser than the main event or penultimate match, although none of them were really offensive in the, sense of for fans or in the sense of morally. Number 3, In Your House 11, Buried Alive. Take your guess at what the main event match of this event was. This show debuted the Buried Alive stipulation match, in which one wrestler has to incapacitate their opponent long enough that they can push them into a shallow grave and cover them with dirt. Bit grim, really. Wrestling's silly to talk about, isn't it? Undertaker and Mankind were the pairing for the titular event, and not only main evented, but stole the show, with the turncoat Paul Bearer's new Maniac associate defeating Taker alongside outside interference from basically the entire villainous locker room. The match also debuted the newest monster of the week to take on Taker. It was the Executioner. Significant also was the opening matchup, pitting still posh Triple H versus the ascendant Stone Cold Steve Austin, who would debut his signature music for the first time ever at this event. The at the time impressively gifted physically Mark Merrill also took on Goldust in a match that was largely derailed by a storyline involving Triple H and Mr. Perfect. Watch it. Or don't watch it. Jim Ross was on commentary and was supposed to be heel at the time, getting increasingly angrier and angrier at the office due to things like missing microphones, broken headsets, or being unable to be heard. Why can't you hear me? What's going on? Number 4, In Your House 18, Bad Blood. I'm not sure there's much point in talking about this show other than the main event, so I'm just going to run through the rest of the card quickly for you. The Nation of Domination beat the Legion of Doom in a handicap match. Max Mini and Nova defeated Mosaic and Tarantula. Owen Hart became the new IC champion in a tournament final against Farouk. There was something called a tag team flag match, and a bunch of bikers fought a load of Puerto Ricans. Now, the main course. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels fought for the right to challenge for the WWF Championship, not in a typical standard singles one-on-one match, no, but in the debuting Hell in a Cell. Wow, how does Vince ever do that? That should go in the outtakes. It won't though. The first ever match of its kind is regaled as a beautiful contest in and of its own right, but it was also a turning point in the Undertaker versus Paul Bearer feud. Paul Bearer had spent the previous several months calling Taker a murderer on television and threatening the reveal of his long-lost brother Kane, who had supposedly died in a fiery accident. And it was in this main event, a match already steeped in grandeur based on the structure involved, the performance of both men, the stakes at play, that a man covered in a fiery red suit marched to the ring as funeral organs blared out around the arena. He tore the wall from the cage and cost his estranged brother a chance at championship gold once again. Kane left his brother lying in the ring, using his own devastating tombstone piledriver move against him. Good golly gosh, the panto of wrestling is just so grand. Number 1, In Your House 16, Canadian Stampede. I think this show may have the right to be considered one of the WWF's greatest events of all time. Not necessarily in grand spectacle, all the main event was something to behold, but in the layout of the card in totality. In the main event, the Canadian Stampede flipped the script, not just in terms of the contest in ring, but also in terms of the WWF story for generations before that. It was no longer America the Beautiful. Instead, it was the Canadian heels that were cheered wildly by the hometown fans. Seriously, go back, just watch the ringside introductions for this contest and see the Hart Foundation come down to the ring to ravenous applause. The matchup pitted the biggest stable in the company at the time against a group of Americans who were described as tough as nails. And Goldust. Goldust was joined in the American team by UFC Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock, notoriously stiff competition in the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and the leader of the pack, Stone Cold Steve Austin, whose feud with Bret the Hitman Hart had been the catalyst for this match altogether. The Hart Foundation team of Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Brian Pillman and the British Bulldog won when the youngest brother Owen Hart got a roll-up on Austin in the middle of the ring, in amongst a series of outside distractions. Every member of the winning side were also graduates of Stampede Wrestling, the territory ran by Bret and Owen's father Stu, and the company for which the event was named. Some of the best to do it in ring at that time, challenging each other to an all-out brawl, interspersed with moments of genuinely incredible technical wrestling in ring. Unlike many of our previous entries, this was far from a one-match show, although it's definitely an instance of quality over quantity. The opening matchup between Mankind and a still posh Triple H received the lowest rating from the Wrestling Observer out of the 4 matches on the show, and even that was still 3 out of 5 stars. In what was one of the Mastodon Vader's best outings for WWF, he took on The Undertaker in a WWF title matchup. As was regularly the case in mid-90s North American wrestling, the light heavyweight division threatened to steal the show, with Japanese legends Taka Michinoku and the great Sasuke being flown in for a one-off match that received 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think you could get a better 4-match card out of WWF at this time, and given it's got the highest by far communal ratings on cagematch.net, I'd say the consensus is the same, that this is the #1 in-your-house pay-per-view ever put on by the WWF. I'm Sam from R-CADE Glasgow, and that's been our top 5 in-your-house pay-per-view events of all time. If you'd like to talk more wrestling, then you can join us in the R-CADE Glasgow Discord and our wrestling club, where we occasionally watch matches and chat about our favourites. If you want to support the work we do here at R-CADE while our Glasgow storefront is closed mid-pandemic, you can go to patreon.com/R-CADE Glasgow, or you can become a Twitch sub over on twitch.tv/R-CADE Glasgow. You can also purchase a bunch of gaming goodies, video game inspired posters, and refurbished consoles over on our website. And if you want to do me a solid, you can tell as many people as you want about this YouTube channel. We've put a lot of effort into it over 2021, and we're hoping to see it grow. So thank you, have a great day, enjoy wrestling.